Welcome, everyone, to this session. Um, I'm Michael Chen. So I'm the VP of Strategic Alliances here at PolyAI. My team looks after our relationships with cloud providers, technology alliances, and global systems integrators. And I'm excited to be joined today by Sam from Twilio and Kevin from Zendesk, both, incidentally, investors in PolyAI, right? So before we get into the meat of it, maybe it'd be great for you, you both just introduce each other, or yourselves, sorry, not each other, your roles and a bit of background about, what you work on in your day-to-day. So why don't we start with yourself, Sam, and then we'll go to Kevin.
Yeah, sure. I could have introduced Kevin. That would have been fun. So, hi, everyone. My name's Sam Richardson. I am Exec Engagement Director here at Twilio. So I look after all things executive across EMEA as well as APAC. I've had about 25 years in customer experience transformation, though. So hence why I'm particularly passionate about PolyAI and everything that you do. We've spoken about this often, Michael, I know. But yeah, thank you for having me. I think it's a great topic and excited to be here with both you and Kevin.
I'm excited to be here with you, Sam. My name is Kevin Boyer. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Zendesk. My portfolio includes workforce engagement, QA and WFM, and all things platform. And so I know some of my team are watching, so glad to see you all here. And also all things voice and routing, including the relaunch of our voice platform this last fall. And also we have a great partnership with Twilio, that's our leading voice vendor, and with Poly, which is our voice AI agents vendor. So excited to be here and to talk about all things voice and personalization.
Great. Well, thank you for those introductions. So the title that we had set for this session was how to use AI for next level personalization. So if I sort of maybe set the scene a little bit, like at least the Poly perspective, right? We've always said that voice is the most natural form of communication, right? With digital channels, with web, with mobile, we actually had to introduce, like us collectively as humans had to learn a new mode of interaction, pressing on the screens, learning how to scroll a web page. But our core belief at Poly is that the ability to speak your thoughts in your own words is actually much more innate behavior, right? And that leads to a richer form of data, right, when you use your own words. And I think Nicholas spoke a little bit about this in his opening keynote about the data potential with voice AI, right? So, with the ability to ask open-ended questions using LLMs over the phone, we can now capture the voice of the customer at like a previously unimaginable scale, right? And I think that forms the foundation, right? That capability is the foundation for what we believe to be this next level of personalization that is going to unlock. So I guess with that sort of setting the scene there, maybe a question, we'll start with you, Sam, is what are the most common questions that you're getting asked, right, about personalization from your customers and executives, and maybe what are they also not asking you that you think they should be?
Thanks, Michael. I think it's interesting. And also I like that you touch on, I think all too often we don't think of voice as a digital channel, but it's absolutely this digital channel because we can mine all of the information from it now and use that to deliver great service and great personalization. So I think that that's a point that sometimes people really miss. In terms of what people are asking, I think people still... Personalization seems to be such a big word that I think people still aren't entirely clear. I hear a lot of people who are, I attend lots of sort of roundtables and events and things, and I think people are still stuck in thinking that personalization is all about the marketing messages that you send and how you tailor that and how you make them more relevant, which of course it is. However, I think that people are missing a trick when they don't think about how to shift their thinking as to how actually can we use data, AI technology to engage in a more personal way with customers. And that's across every single interaction. I think the other thing, the question that I wish people would ask more is how can we think about personalization in terms of earning trust with our customers and making sure that we are communicating with our customers in a way that builds that trust and builds that relationship as well. So I think people miss a bit of a trick there with that one. So I think it's less about, lots of organizations as well think that they're doing personalization really well, but we survey thousands of customers every year about this, and actually only 15% of consumers think that personalization is done really well. So there's definitely a delta in terms of what brands think they're doing really well with personalization, and us as consumers thinking, they just haven't got it right at all. So clearly some work to be done.
Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? But hey, how about you, Kevin? Like, what
Yeah,
are you
I love what you're talking about. I love where you're going with this, Sam. I think, excuse me, I think we and customer service operations people, CX leaders should be asking, why are we personalizing? What is the objective? And, I think you would hear most people say, well, we want to gain the trust or improve CSAT or NPS or something like that. But at the end of the day, the way that that's ultimately being measured is not just that way. If we're personalizing so that we can gather information in the run up to an actual engagement to then push people to self-service, that's really a cost reduction motion, right? It's not about CSAT and NPS. Or if we're gathering information so we can put that information in front of an agent so that they can move more quickly through the call, that's going to be more satisfying to the agent as well as the customer. But again, that's really about cost reduction. Or if we're putting more context from external systems in front of an agent so that the agent can upsell, that's about revenue. Now, if you're a human being, I think that's why these 15% of the interactions feel personalized, because you're not personalizing to my pain or my need. Let me tell you a story that literally just happened to me yesterday. So apparently in September, my bank sent me a check for a refund for my mortgage escrow. I had overpaid in my mortgage process. And they sent me an email yesterday saying, hey, by the way, we've noticed you haven't cashed the check. So the email, of course, I can't reply to the email because it clearly says I can't do that. The only motion for that is to phone them. So I'm like, I immediately, like most consumers, I think, I start feeling anxiety. I've got to call my bank. So I call the bank. And what happens at the beginning of this kind of IVR tree is what I think the bank would consider to be some level of personalization. They're giving me information. They're trying to extract information from me. And then they're trying to route me to the right person. So, I did ultimately end up at the right person, but not before at some point I got an ad for a financial services product. I'm pressing 00000. I realized I still have to find my account number and enter that information in, when really what I wanted was somebody to answer the phone and say, hi, I'm so-and-so from fill in the blank. I won't shame them here. How can I help you? And I would have said, you sent me an escrow check and I haven't cashed it, and you sent me an email and I need to replace it. All of this stuff would have been bypassed. And by the time I get to a person whose name, by the way, was Kevin, so we had a nice laugh about that, he was really good. He just very, very quickly was able to resolve my issue. He, of course, had the information on my account in front of him. I said, hey, can you apply this to my mortgage, to my principal? And he's like, sure, we can do that. 2 minutes from the beginning of that conversation to the end, and we're done. So the bank is personalizing to me, but not really. What they're doing is they're using an IVR tree, interactive voice response tree, to gather information and try to push me to somewhere. It's about their routing and their experience and not mine. And I think that's really the power of something like Poly or other voice AI agents, is if you can just do all of that work up front and just kind of immediately move to the customer's pain point, then you are achieving the level of personalization and that comfort that somebody can have that will lead you ultimately to a higher satisfaction rate with personalization. So long story, but good example.
Great example,
literally
right?
happened to me yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, to Sam's point, it's like a moment of, I guess there was a moment to create trust there, right? When you sort of call back in and also lost a little bit in that interaction. And I think it also speaks to a lot of the, well, maybe not a lot, but a fair amount of demand or call demand into a contact center can be sort of failure demand, right? Triggered by other channels, right? And as a consumer, you might hope that the bank in that example knew, would have an idea as to why you might be calling, given the email that they sent, and that was an opportunity.
Yeah, they have my phone number. They could have identified that from my phone number, and they didn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had the reverse with the GP surgery, because I called them and said, I need a repeat prescription, and they said, okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll send that to the pharmacy. And it took me a minute, and I was like, hang on. you haven't asked me any details. Well, of course, it's because they had all my details. And it was surprising that for me, I was then started grilling them because I can't help myself. But it is interesting because the data is available for everybody to use. I think it's about how you think about applying it. And you made a great point, Kevin, which is it's this definition of personalization. And all too often, organizations think about their own definition and what they want to get out of it, whether it is to sell more, whether it is for routing, but they're not thinking about what the customer needs in terms of what does it mean for me as a consumer to have a personalized experience.
Yeah.
I think you raise a really good point there.
And I get it, right? I mean, contact center buyers, CX leaders, you need to reduce costs, and voice in particular is the most expensive channel. So pretty much anything you can do that can reduce the cost of that channel is going to be useful and helpful for your bottom line. But there is a way to do it. There's a way to deliver this personalized experience, and the way AI can help you deliver that personalized experience that's fundamentally different than the way we used to do that. And that's obviously what we're talking about today. And we both have some ideas on how people might go about that.
Yeah.
I think what you're touching on there is, I think with personalization, it's always been associated with this idea of a more human touch, right? And I think what we've seen is contact center leaders, operations under like a lot of pressure these days, right, to deliver efficiency, right? And so efficiency, that means answering the questions as quickly as possible. It means agents jumping to the next call as quickly as possible. And what results from that is, in many situations, a lot of scripts, right? Hey, just say this word, just say this sentence, And I think, we've always reflected on that and go, well, you're not really allowing humans to be very human, right? In those types of, when you put them under that efficiency strain, right? And so I guess, how do you see AI creating a different trade-off, I guess, between what traditionally was sacrificing efficiency for human touch, or one or the other, right?
I can go first this time if you want, Sam.
Yeah.
I think, so at Zendesk, we have been thinking about this like a lot of people have for quite some time. And when Gen AI hit the scene, we started to kind of examine the types of interactions that could be helped with generative AI, and also what we thought the future of customer service would be with the addition of AI on these channels. And we believe that the future state is that AI will touch 100% of all interactions, that maybe as many as 80% of them will be completely resolved without a human being. But that also, if done right, the quantity of interaction between brands and individual consumers will increase perhaps as much as 5-fold, which, if you do the math, works out to basically the same net number of interactions would require engagement with the human being. All of this, though, is going to depend upon fundamental changes in human behavior. IDC, just got some new research back from IDC this week, that 50% of consumers are still using an average of 3 channels to get their issue resolved. Now let that sink in, right? My email to phone, right? Imagine there's a 3rd channel. And almost always, if there's a person working in 3 channels, typically one of those is voice. And the reason they're there is because they end up with humans for like that comfort and that convenience or complexity. And so, ultimately, the ability of AI to be able to move to this 80% resolution rate or without human being is going to be dependent upon humans feeling like they're getting that same level of comfort and convenience and complex resolution and autonomous resolution of their issue from AI. And I think that's where particularly voice AI is so important, because there's always going to be an opportunity for people for customer service to be able to be delivered via the voice channel. And some people think voice could become even more important. It could become even more prevalent because it's ultimately an easier way for people to communicate than typing on their computer or on their phone or tablet, right? So if we could remove the friction associated with that and give them the same level of comfort using AI, that I think is the direction we have to go in order to really get the benefits of automation, the benefits of the personalization, the benefits of all of this to accrue to contact centers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that voice, we'll see voice once again. I mean, it's normally the channel of choice, but for very different reasons. And I think with AI and voice AI, what it enables voice to become is that channel of ease as well, and a key channel of resolution, which is the important word, because as consumers, what customers always want resolution. That's why that's what we're trying to get. But at least 3 touch points to get a resolution is still not that much better than it was a few years ago when we had less technology. So it's interesting that you say that's still the figure. I really think that voice will become the channel of choice for organizations as well, because of that simplicity of resolving. But the thing that organizations need to learn the lesson from when chatbots were introduced, and we thought that they were going to knock a lot of volume out of a contact center, is to make sure that there is that jumping off point to speak to a human. And I think learning the mistakes, or learning what went not necessarily wrong, but what the limitations were of automating and using things like chatbot and applying that to voice, I think will set organizations up in a better way to be able to actually contain that and see the benefits. Something in general, I think it was Gartner said that something like $96 billion has been spent globally trying to personalize. And I think that, and we know that something like 640 billion has been spent, again, it was a Gartner estimation, on transformation initiatives, but we're still at that three channels and 3 touch points. So I think that, stepping back, perhaps not rushing into these initiatives and taking that step back and really thinking through all of those, all of the process flows, I think is probably critical, with resolution in mind all the time.
Yeah, I think to your point of there were limitations in previous generations of this technology that meant there just wasn't the level of engagement for the user that was required. They weren't able to express themselves in the way that they wanted, and then if they did, the system wasn't able to hold enough context and make those API calls and whatnot to receive resolution, right? And so I think the first step in this sort of next level of personalization has to be with engagement, because we've learned that customers and callers should always have the option to ask for a human being, and so they always have the option to say representative or agent and be handed off. And but for the AI to play a significant role in that personalization, to deal with this sort of increase in potential interaction points, it's all about keeping them engaged, right? Building trust in that conversation. So that's for us is what we've always seen as, and what we educate as super paramount, right? As you think about this journey.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I mean, we've talked about kind of the importance of natural language interface at the kind of AI to human level. But yeah, assuming that is satisfying, but also requires an actual human because of some requirement with the company, it's about a VIP customer, or the issue is, requires exceptions that the AI is not equipped to make yet, or something like that. AI definitely has the power to make that human interaction much better. And I think, that's why you see this kind of advent of agent assist or co-pilot mode that, a lot of the vendors, including Zendesk, have offered. And some of us have been able to morph from essentially using a generative AI prompt model where the agent has to go out and find information, to something that's more proactive, where the generative AI models are using the customer's existing knowledge base plus additional databases, what we would call, RAG, for example, additional data that can be incorporated so that the recommendations that are coming from the AI in co-pilot or assist mode back to the human agent are more accurate, more relevant, again, contextual, and make it possible for the human to personalize not just to the kind of circumstances of what brought the call, but also to the actual pain points and the known concerns of that customer. The customer service agent might not know that the thing that the customer's calling about is something they've had, they've really wanted for a long time, and they've had a lot of conversations with the salesperson about it, and now all of a sudden it's here. And so it's not just that the thing isn't working, but that this thing that had great promise for them is not working, right? So the ability to be able to pull all of that context in and to have the human be more human, instead of just trying to rush through the call, I think is the other kind of potential personalization and behavioral change that, again, could really ramp up the quality of it and the feeling that you're getting something out of it. And like, I don't need to wait. I told this story before. I have problems with my cable bill. I have problems with my cable. I just won't fix it because I know when I call my cable company, it's going to be bad experience. If the experience was good and I knew it would get resolved, I would have resolved it months ago, but I haven't done that because I just know that it's not going to be good. So get the cable company on a natural language interface for voice, and then get the humans the context they need. And then all of a sudden I can fix my stuff faster. I don't have to sit at it and have a negative opinion of the cable company.
So we've got about 5 or so minutes left of the discussion. So I wanted to pivot this a little bit. And, personalization isn't just about the LLM. It's just not just about the voice AI, right? There's a lot of other systems involved, lots of other data involved. And I'd love to hear both of your perspectives on, outside of voice AI, what is Twilio doing? What is Zendesk doing? What's that perspective on personalization? So Sam, maybe we'll start with yourself. I know Twilio has a whole bunch going on in sort of customer data platforms. Like, what's your perspective on the broader sort of personalization within the enterprise?
Yeah, so we acquired Segment a couple of years ago because we knew then that data was going to be absolutely the foundation for any kind of transformation with AI and for where the world was going. And I think for us, it's firmly this: data plus communications plus AI is what you need in order to be able to deliver personalization at scale. And I think that we should think about personalization as contextual engagement as well, and think about it in those terms, not to really kind of move it on and think about it across the whole journey. But yeah, for us, it all starts with the data and being able to gather that data, not just from voice calls, from marketing touch points, from every single interaction that you're having with a customer, to be able to then take that data, use that to provide that contextual information that Kevin was talking about. And we also have co-pilots and things. I think everybody has co-pilots these days because it's just such a brilliant way to help the agents to lighten the load on agents. You can still go to contact centers and see people clicking around on 12 different screens in order to be able just to answer a question. So I think that, and then being able to use that again to keep building that profile and keep driving that knowledge and context about a customer, so that it only sort of perpetuates and deepens the relationship. Because ultimately what you want is that deeper relationship with a customer. I think as well, there's always this question about how much data people want to give. There's always kind of this tug between data and data privacy. We need more data as organizations. People don't want to give data until we've demonstrated trust and so on and so forth. And I think that, hopefully, and once we've done that, again, I think people miss that personalizing interactions builds that trust. Then you can gather more data, keep building that trust, keep delivering the contextual engagement. So yeah, all starts with the data for us.
And Kevin, what about you? I mean, the Zendesk suite is quite broad, right? Ticketing.
Yeah, I mean, we already have and are continue to extend AI into our entire platform. Building off of the trust comment you just made, Sam. One of the things that we now offer is the ability to use AI to identify personally identifiable information within interactions, and to remove that or to make suggested redactions. So that's a good example of where it's not so much personalization, but it's giving, again, humans the confidence and the comfort that they need in order to continue to give us the data, that when they have a level of understanding that their data is not going to be used to train the model, or their personal data is not going to be used to train a model. I think the other thing is, if you think about how AI operates to deliver personalization, the most powerful tool that a company has in the customer service area would be their knowledge base, right? Outside of the actual brains of the agents. And so AI to help you build knowledge, AI to help you fix the knowledge that you have in your knowledge base, AI to be able to pull the right knowledge that a customer might need, so that when you enter the customer service experience and you're either with an AI agent or you're into some kind of chat bot, that AI can help pull what you really need. And if it's not there, can maybe even construct something for you based upon the information, or construct something for an agent for an admin to go in and be able to add it in. So I think there's, a lot of other ways. And,
Yep.
I mean, another couple of examples, we've acquired a company in the workforce management space, which uses AI to power forecasts. So the agents are in their seat ready to talk, and you don't have to spend extra money on overtime. And then AI powered QA, which is essentially like real-time Copilot, which allows you to kind of like right away see whether the answer is going to meet the benchmarks for quality, internal quality scores. So there's a lot of ways that AI is being used at Zendesk to kind of like embed a level of quality and personalization across the platform.
Yeah.
I think one of the really interesting things I find is that there's going to be a huge design space with platforms like Zendesk, where traditionally it's been, one for helping agents, right? And, human agents, but now there's going to be this interplay of there's going to be some AI things that are happening there, and then there's going to be some human things that are happening there, and I think there's still a lot of design to be had. How do you make that seamless and sort of not stepping on each other's toes, so to speak? What the AI does, what the human does in that interface, right? So we've got a couple minutes left. There is one question in the Q&A that I find quite interesting. I think it ties to maybe, Sam, something that you just discussed on the CDP side, right? If I was to summarize it, it's about personalization relies on integration across multiple different systems, and we know in an enterprise environment that is a task in and of itself, right? The question is, do you have any tips, anecdotes, comments on how do you manage that integration, right, on these homegrown systems that enterprises might be working with?
Yeah, it isn't easy. There are definitely tools there to help do it. We have a really interesting customer. They're a fashion e-commerce platform. And the way they talk about it is they had this problem. They had data all over the place, and they put Twilio segment in the middle. So it feeds in, it feeds out, it's passing once they've got that at the core of everything they do. And it took time. And it does take time to be able to do it, and a concerted effort. And there was buy-in from, every single part of the organization. But once they're able to they've done it, they've got that, and then they're able to start using that in a really clean and trusted way to be able to use it across every single part of the business, and not just the business analysts and the data scientists and marketing, but through to customer experience, through to customer service. And I just think, is it easy? No. Is it getting easier? Absolutely. But I think if any kind of AI initiative or personalization initiative that you're going to do is going to require that data cleansing exercise. And it's going to require having accessible, understandable data in one place.
Yep. And I think what we've seen is that these projects bring teams that traditionally maybe have not really had a lot to do with each other together for sometimes the very first time, right? And so as a final comment, I'd say, on personalization is specifically related to that question. Get to know some colleagues that you might not have sort of thought that were in touch with, right? In the contact center leaders, we've seen a lot of marketing and brand sort of teams get involved now with AI, with personalization. So reach out, reach out to more stakeholders within your organization. But thanks so much, Sam, Kevin, for joining us on this session. I'll hand it back over to Jen to close this out.